Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us on this Monday evening, August 20th at 6 p.m. We've got all of that to get to, plus the latest developments on fracking and voter crackdowns across our region, an unholy congressional trip to Israel, and even a little election and political humor courtesy of some funny people on Twitter and some very funny people on our panel. But we begin with the hefty price tag for a brand new Tappan Zee Bridge. Would you pay $10 to cross the Tappan Zee Bridge? What about $14? You might have to, as the state turns to Washington to replace the aging structure. No one disputes the need for a new Tappan Zee Bridge. The current bridge, which is now 56 years old, has been listed as among the most structurally deficient or weak spans in New York, not to mention the nation. 138,000 vehicles cross it every single day. New York has already spent $750 million to repair the bridge, costs that could rise to $3 to $4 billion over the next couple of decades just to keep the bridge standing and functional. So now Governor Cuomo and local leaders have backed a $5 billion replacement plan to save the bridge and create jobs. Today came the next step, asking Washington to help pay part of the bill.
All those years of delay are a thing of the past. We've made more progress in the past few months than we made in 13 years, and that's the truth. We passed a piece of legislation called Design Build, which is going to be a fundamentally different way for the state of New York to pursue this project. We're going to go to a private contractor with the responsibility for both the design and the build of the bridge. And the next step now is to go to Washington and apply for a federal loan to make sure that we can build the bridge and we can keep the tolls affordable. And that's the next obstacle for us to overcome, and we will.
As the governor mentioned or hinted at, there are concerns. Environmental groups say the new plans have yet to be fully studied for their impact. Commuters are seething at possible toll costs, which was originally pegged at $14 per round trip. That would be higher than any other Hudson River crossings. The governor looking for ways to lower that projected toll. And others complain the whole thing is being rushed through without enough time for the public to be heard. Now, for answers to those questions and more, we're joined tonight by Brian Conybeare. He is Governor Cuomo's special advisor for the Tappan Zee Bridge. Brian, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the biggest concern for most people who use the current Tappan Zee Bridge, and that's the tolls. There were talks about $20+ tolls if mass transit had been included. The first projections came in at $14 per round trip. Where are we right now, and how confident are you and the governor that those costs can actually be lowered?
We are very confident those numbers will be lower. Those have been projections from the get-go based on the federal government's $5.2 billion estimate of the cost of this plan. We're hopeful that the bids that are being analyzed right now from 3 design-build consortiums come in well below that. In fact, they have assured us that they are at or below the $5.2 billion number. So that's a positive step. The other major step was the vote today by the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, NYMTEC. That vote by county executives from Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam allow us now to go to the federal government and apply for a $2 billion loan. If we get that loan, that is going to help us drive the cost down.
So is there any idea at this point what the cost for a toll might be at this point?
Well, the current projection for cash is $14, but a lot of people are regular commuters. If you go over the Tappan Zee every day, right now you get a 40% discount off of the current cash toll, which is $5. So if that's still held up in 5 years from now, you'd be paying about $8.20. If you don't replace the bridge, if you rehab the current structure, you mentioned $3 to $4 billion, tolls would have to rise anyway to pay for that. And commuters, daily commuters, would average about $7.20 in tolls. So if you think about it as 60 cents each way, you know, between $8.40 and $7.20, you wind up with a new bridge that is ready for transit, has express bus service on day one, wider shoulders, breakdown lanes, safety, isn't in danger of collapse someday, or you get stuck with the same old bridge and you're still paying more. Those are kind of the options.
The route that it crosses, the 287, a major thoroughfare for all sorts of traffic skirting New York City. It's the closest bridge around New York without going into the city. Because of that, it really is a regional function, and the governor asking the federal government for help today. But should New Jersey and Connecticut be on the hook for part of this? Is there any way to include them in this to try to defray some of these costs? Is it, because it really is more than just commuters every day who rely on this bridge?
Well, it also involves interstate trucking. There's no question that millions, if not billions of dollars of goods come through the Tappan Zee Bridge every year, and truckers will pay more as well. They will pay their fair share to help defray the costs. And the trucks, the heavy 18-wheelers, actually do, I'm told, 10,000 times the amount of damage that a regular passenger vehicle does to a road like the New York State Thruway and a bridge. So they're going to pay more. Out-of-state trucks will pay more. People out of state who might not have an easy pass will pay more. But the governor is committed to finding local discounts for Westchester and Rockland residents. There will be some type of discount plan. So even if you're not a regular 5-day-a-week commuter and you're going to visit grandma in Rockland or you're going shopping in White Plains, you will get some type of discount. Those numbers just haven't been worked out yet.
This thing is really on the fast track. It's really picked up steam in the last couple of weeks. I know there's been a push here to qualify for this loan, and there was a deadline for that. A lot of environmental groups are saying, hey, this thing hasn't been fully studied. We don't know what the environmental impact is going to be. What's your response to those concerns?
Well, we've been studying this for over 10 years, and we did just take the environmental impact statement to the federal government. A dozen different agencies, from the EPA to the National Marine Fisheries to the Department of Environmental Conservation at the state, have all studied it and all signed off on it. We are taking incredible mitigation measures to try to keep the river and endangered species in it safe. We're taking unprecedented measures to monitor the air quality, the noise from construction, the vibration. We're going to have 24-hour monitors that people can access on our website and see, oh, the noise is above the decibel level, and the contractors have a half an hour to respond and an hour to stop whatever is causing, any trouble. So the environmental study is very, very complete. Some folks do have legitimate concerns, and we're dedicated to working with them. One
of the groups that had some of those concerns is the group Riverkeeper. You're familiar with them. Sure. We reached out to them for their questions, for their concerns on it. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions for them. One, when will the state deliver on the financial plan for the project that the Thruway executive promised back in May? Is there a date certain for that?
We don't have a definitive date, but today was a major step forward. With that NIMTEC vote and the county executives backing the overall plan, they didn't vote for a specific bridge design. They didn't vote for a specific financial plan. What they voted for was to ask the federal government to help us finance it. We need a new bridge, and it's bipartisan. People from both sides of the aisle agree we need a new bridge, and that was the big step today. So now we go to the federal government. If they approve that TIFIA loan, the Transportation Infrastructure Financing and Innovation Act, if they approve that, all the other pieces start to fall into place.
There's no mass transit on the bridge right now. It was said that would push it over $20 per toll or per round trip. The governor had a task force, a mass transit task force. The county executives mentioned this last week. When are we going to get the results of that? Because that's still not in yet. And when is that going to come out?
Well, they are actually in the process right now of putting together that new task force. This is something that is new. The county executives and the governor agreed that we need to study mass transit. The governor's committed to mass transit. In fact, on day one that the new Tappan Zee Bridge opens, there will be a dedicated express bus lane. So express buses will be able to get through if there is a traffic tie-up. But beyond that, we've now agreed to create a one-year task force to look at the options on either end of the bridge. Would it be a Metro-North Railroad? Would it be bus rapid transit? Would it be some other mode that we haven't even thought of yet? The new Tappan Zee Bridge will be ready and structurally strong enough to handle any kind of mass transit in the future, including both Metro-North trains and bus rapid transit.
But just quickly, what do you say to people who say, well, you know what, there are still a lot of unanswered questions, and it seems like this thing is speeding along faster than cars go over the Tappan Zee Bridge. I mean, how do you allay those concerns?
Well, we've been talking about it for more than a decade. I mean, there have been studies and studies and studies. $88 million, in fact, spent on studies and talk over a decade. And Governor Cuomo has decided it's time to end all that talk and dysfunction. It is time to build a new Tappan Zee Bridge.
All right, Brian Conybeare, Governor Cuomo's special advisor for the Tappan Zee Bridge. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right.